Hari Om, Deepa.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Yeah. Hari Om. I welcome everybody for today's topic of discussion, Principles of the Peak Performance by the Gita. We have here two very eminent people, Dr. Janki Santoke and Pullela Gopichand. Well, we fondly call him Gopi, and Gopi needs no introduction. Every Indian will know who Gopi is, especially if he's playing a sport. Gopi has won badminton nationals 5 times in a row, and he has traveled internationally and got several awards for the country. And one of the most prestigious being the All England Badminton Championship, and he's only the second Indian to have won that. But injuries didn't let him continue for too long, and very quickly he turned into a coach. He has been coaching so many Indians who have been bringing laurels to our country. He has gone on to win many, many awards from the government. I mean, he has been the recipient of every award that the government has given, starting from Arjun Award to Padma Shri to Dronacharya to Padma Bhushan, which is like the third highest civilian award. He has also started a world-class badminton academy in Hyderabad where he is training a lot of talent from the country who are again bringing laurels to the country. So who better than Gopi to discuss the principles of performance with Janki ji today? And we have also here our very dear Dr. Janki Santoke, who's a Vedanta scholar and a proponent. She has been spreading the knowledge of Vedanta for over 3 decades. And she's trying so very hard to bring all of us, to educate on this knowledge and implement it in our lives. She has been a corporate trainer. She has been a columnist writing for Economic Times and which is the other one, Janki ji? Economic Times, and she's been writing for very many newspapers, and she has started this YouTube channel where she's been posting a lot of videos on life and living, the short videos and the long, so where we can, see and benefit from it. And she has been taking classes for almost 3 decades in Bombay. She's been on Zoom ever since the pandemic started. So people like us have been benefiting. She has finished her Vedantic studies staying in an ashram. She's also a PhD in philosophy. And very recently, she authored a book called How Do You Know What You Know? And some of her interests are Sanskrit and English. And I don't want to take much of anybody's time. So let's start off with the discussion. I leave it to Janki ji and Gopi to continue the topic. Please carry on.
Thank you, Deepa.
Namaskar, Janki ji. It's such a pleasure.
Honor indeed.
We have, I think, less time, so I would really want to ask you to put some light on some of the topics around performance. One of the things which I found very challenging in my entire career is sport is very competitive, and many of the times it's not about knowing the entirety of the subject, but it is about winning. And in a scenario like that, not everybody can win. So how do you have an attitude of learning, and what should be our attitude towards winning and losing in sport or in life in general?
Yes, everybody cannot win. That's a given. But the most important thing, I guess, we should all be able to see about sport as well as our life is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you won or lost. There are champions who won 5 times Wimbledon champion, 6 times Wimbledon champion. But the quality of a person's life is based not on the fact that he won or lost. The quality of a person's life is and how he played the game. how we are living our lives. Not so the important thing if in the fifth standard, if I won a singing competition, like that time I could be very excited. But what does that even mean to me today? But what would be important or not important is how much riyaz I have actually done. How much have I upped my skill in that? So you don't become Lata Mangeshkar based on whether you win or lose some competitions, but you have able to hone that skill. Not only you've been able to hone that skill with that kind of discipline and restraint as you must be well equipped with, but the other thing is also that you have lived the life of comprehension which you're referring to understand the whole picture. When you put these two together, that's when all the beauty, all the potential of everything starts coming out. And that's where the Bhagavad Gita ends, actually. The last verse of the Bhagavad Gita says that Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna. That means the higher values, the comprehension of life. Where is Krishna? Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha. You built that skill. He is the best archer. He's built that skill. So when we can combine these two in our life, we are excellent at what we are doing. And we understand the whole picture. Tatra Shri Vijaya. There is Shri, wealth. There is Vijaya. There's victory. There's Dhruvaniti. There is good policies. So once you understand this thing, that it is not the winning or the losing that will let me put my head on the pillow and go to sleep at night, which will determine whether I'm going to get blood pressure and cholesterol or not. But my ability to do that, to be able to do to have that skill, because in your own life you've seen how you work so hard to get a particular skill, and then for various reasons you were not able to execute that. For anybody else, they can collapse under that and say, oh my God, what happened? I did everything and look at where I've reached. But actually, what happened? Because of that kind of application, there was no collapse, there was no depression, there was no saying, I mean, of course, there's a feeling bad and all that sort, but there's no giving up. There's like, okay, I can't do this, and then I can do this. And with that, I have scaled even higher heights. In fact, because of what at that time must have been a huge blow, later on, the Padma Shri and the Dronacharya and all that came because of it, right? So it's not the winning or the losing. It's not what happens to us in life. It is the that we are presenting to life that makes the difference. So just understanding that doesn't mean we don't play the game to the best of our ability, and that doesn't mean we don't try to win every match. That drive to win is there, but with the comprehension that at the end of the day, it's my skill, it's me, it's not the winning or it's not the trophy. What am I going to do with the trophy? I just have to dust it in my house after some time. So that's what's going to happen. But it's the me who's done this that counts. Is that clear?
Yeah. For me personally, in this journey, I've been able to get to this stage or thinking much later. When I was junior, I wasn't in the same mindset. But somewhere after my injuries, after the ups and downs, it boiled down that the entire journey was about myself. How and when can we incorporate it to young children? How can this process of not having to go through the entire pain and experience by yourself, but to be able to share it or to actually condense the process to young kids? So, what are the qualities which students need to have, and what are the techniques which teachers need to use?
In ancient India, people were taught this when they were young, the basic concepts of right living. And that's basically what we need to inculcate. As when they're young, we teach them that. but it's not necessary that they will learn that. It is, this is the big thing about life, that we will learn when everything comes together finally. But if the base is set in childhood, not in early childhood, but like, when they're able to think a little bit, if the base is set at that time, when the incident comes, that knowledge will come back to them. So we can't get frustrated. Oh, the kids are not understanding that this is the journey is about you. We can't get frustrated with that. They won't. Because how it is all the things put together, your life and your experience and what you thought about your experience and all these things put together, that finally gives us that aha moment. Okay, I get it now. Now, before that, it's just, what should I say, just bookish knowledge. So they will have bookish knowledge initially. Some who are very smart will get it without the experience. Like a Buddha, he needs 4 experiences to get it. He understands once and for all. But most people are not going to be of that caliber. So we present the knowledge to all the youngsters, let them take it or leave it as they deem best, and leave it like you leave a seed. You plant a seed, you water it, and you leave it. So that's the technique of the teacher, that put it there, but then leave it.
So one of the aspects for me was intriguing about Krishna's life was the actual Gita itself, because Arjuna had Krishna with him
Mhm.
for a long time. And then, if in the middle of the war, just before it started, if he were to ask Krishna this entire his questions, his doubts, his apprehensions, a normal person would really think, "Boss, what were you doing last night or the day before? Hey, you've been there with me for 15 years or 20 years, and you never had these issues. And here in the middle, you're wasting everybody's time getting
Mhm.
your doubts. So
Mhm.
why couldn't you have got yourself sorted?" So doubt, of course, and seeking is something which we've always in Indian culture looked at. Uh, but somebody would also say that had Krishna spent an equal amount of time on somebody else and given his Vishwarupam to them, they probably would have flowered in the same way as Arjuna has done. So what could have been a possible reason for that? Oh, is it all poetic in some sense, or should we take it literally, or any light on that incident?
Okay. So, firstly, yes, you're very right that the bugles have rung, the kettle drums have been played, the all the signs of battle starting have happened, and he says, "Okay, take me, let me see the other army." And he takes him senayor ubhayor madhye, between the two armies, and this guy says, "Hello, should I fight?" Pagal hai, tum kya kar rahe ho? It's like, you've come onto the court to play the game, and you turn around to your coach and say, "Are you sure you want me to play this?" What will, the coach will get a heart attack himself if he hears that. So, what has happened to Arjuna in that state is he has gone through a mental collapse. He is going through horripilation. The text says so. He's going through horripilation. His hair is standing on end. Gandiva his Gandiva is falling from his hand. He can't hold it. It's like he can't hold the racket or he can't hold a bat. It's like that. It's falling from his hands. The great archer cannot hold this. So a situation has come about where, at the most important juncture of not only Arjuna's life but of righteousness itself, the main guy has collapsed. And so that is why Krishna has to give him the Gita, because he's no longer able to face the challenges of life. So that's why the first chapter is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. He's broken down. The great guy who knows the best archer known to man at that time couldn't do this. So the Gita is actually meant to rehabilitate a broken person. So it was given because of a certain situation, but it was not given because he had some particular thing. Because the same Vishwarupa Darshana was also shown, I don't know if you know, to Duryodhana, okay, to frighten him from the war. He didn't agree. I mean, even after saying Vishwarupa Darshana, he was so obdurate that he couldn't get it. Who am I fighting? So the war happened. It was the last ditch attempt Krishna makes to prevent the war. He shows him his Vishwarup, his Bhayanak form. No effect on Duryodhana. So whatever the teacher does, it's a lot dependent on the student. In the case of Arjuna, though he's a broken man, and he got help, he was able to pick himself up and get going. Duryodhana, seeing exactly the same thing, couldn't pick himself up and get his intellect going. And the Gita was actually given, a Gita was also given by Krishna to Uddhava, who was a real student. He didn't go to him because there was a certain situation. He went because he wanted to learn. So that Uddhava Gita is like completely different from the Bhagavad Gita, which was given to a man of action because he's not able to perform his action. So he's teaching him how to act, how to go about it, which is different from Uddhava Gita, which is given to a sannyasi who wants to know how to go further in the spiritual path. Of course, both the Gitas tell us about the spiritual path, of course, that's there. But the backdrop is completely different. So would he have done the same to both and got the same results? All three times different results.
So it brings me to this question of Swadharma and people's own nature, because there's a lot of talk of Arjuna's being from the Kshatriya clan and somebody being from a sannyasi, and how knowledge is different and their paths are different. So in a world like when things were very clear about whose role was what, at least in a certain, when most instances, the knowledge and the dharma of the person is very clear and apt. How in the present world, where that is mixed up, and whether it's our karma or genetics or our upbringing, makes us do different things from what we've been born in. There's been a mixture of class, caste, um, ideology, education. So this whole Brahman, Kshatriya, or the class of people who are doing culture, or who are doing um, other things, which is like is not there. So there's a mix of this entire. So how in this present world do we look at Swadharma? And one of the biggest challenges I have, and I think education for me poses this challenge with India, is that when I move into a Korean, Japanese, or a Chinese culture, I see at least a certain amount of clarity in their cultural identity. Whereas in India, I see a distinct difference between what is taught at home, maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, by our grandparents to parents, to what is taught in schools, and what is seen in Western education, and what is taught and taught of in, say, an MBA college or a school. So it talks about very different ways of business, of your dharma. So it becomes very difficult as a student to understand what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes, uh, at least for me personally, I would really love to have clear demarcations, because even if it pains, I don't mind doing the right thing. But sometimes the right is so unclear, and whom you go to decides what is right, and that becomes a problem. How do we get over this and one of the things is, of course, to teach Vedanta early. And how do we, in a practical world, in the education system, in our own cultural uh, system, get over this? Because I see this as a practical problem for uh, both both all generations. In fact, for people who are teaching as well as people who are learning.
Yes, and very paradoxically, I'd like to answer that by giving a quote from Shakespeare. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow then as night the day, thou canst be false to any man. So, how do you do it? There's all this confusion, as you're saying, all over the place. There is no rigidity of the earlier world that is gone, and it's not been replaced by full education. So, we are in no man's land, as it were. So, what you have to do now in this scenario, as probably in any scenario, really, a person has to learn to think for himself and learn to understand that right and wrong is very, very subjective. It is a relative thing. What is right for me today in this position may itself not be right for me in another time, in another place. That's why we have the concept of each person should follow his own dharma. Whatever your light shows you at this point, do that. It's like the headlights of the car. Whatever your headlights show you, do that. And if you do that, it means your car moves ahead a little bit. The headlights will show you some more. We cannot go and ask anybody what to do or not to do because, as you rightly say, then it's dependent on what they say. We can, of course, take advice, but the responsibility always lies with me to do what I think is right. May not be right for others, but for me, now this is right. So therefore, I need to do it because we are all in different places, we are all in different circumstances. So the first decision which we should take correctly in life is what am I like? What kind of person am I? That's the first thing, and that's called swadharma. Swadharma means your own nature. So every student, in fact, anybody at any point in life must first and foremost know what is their own nature. Because how can you run an equipment without knowing what it is? You don't know whether it's a mixer or a hair dryer, and you're trying to run it first. Find out what it is. That is finding your swadharma. Is this a mixer? Is this a hair dryer? Is this a washing machine? What is it? Okay, once I figure out what it is, then I will be able to use it in the right way. So I choose my career, or I choose marriage, or I choose a sport, or music, or whatever it is I'm choosing based on what kind of personality this is. If it's a marrying personality, I should be getting married. If it's not a marrying type, I should keep away from it. If I am a sports personality, then I take to that. If I am a business personality, then I take to that. And that's where I will find my sway karmani. In your own action, when we do whatever, in our own action, we find the greatest peace, the greatest satisfaction, and the greatest success. Because in the big bad world, we are competing with other people who are in their own field. So if I go into a field which is not mine, then I stand no chance whatsoever. So first decision is my swadharma. I know my swadharma through self-analysis. Look at yourself, see what you like, what you don't like, what you tend to do. Not the glamour of I love films, not like that. Or I'd love to do badminton because it's so glamorous. Because we see especially the kids, they see things and they're very taken up by the glamour of it. It could be the glamour of spirituality, it could be the glamour of badminton, it could be the glamour of films, even the idea of being a Mukesh Ambani. It's a glamour. But do you enjoy the work that it takes to do that? Okay, any kid will say, "Oh, I want to be like Gopichand," but are you willing to do what he did? And do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy going and playing those hours and hours of badminton? Then only think about it. So Swadharma is our own nature, and we know that only by self-analysis. And if there are some people around us who use their intellects, then they may be able to give us a few insights into our nature as well. So knowing our own Swadharma basically and deciding our own action, because each one has to on his own decide what is right and what is wrong.
For many of us, the education system actually brings this subject out very late in life, and we kind of end up almost learning a lot of things which actually take us away from asking this fundamental question. Um, so, as somebody who's many of the times people actually chose their path without actually doing the introspection themselves, and they're really confused on this path. So, from a uh, teacher or from a parent perspective, um, almost when we talk swadharma, or when we talk ha- deep diving into yourself, it almost feels as though that you're shunning the world and moving away from that. Contrary to that, I think the Gita gives us some of these things which are very, very knowledgeable. But I really wish, because I see 20 years of education, people coming out a lot more confused than ever before. And this whole journey only starts when they are 40 and 45, and they've moved on their path almost blindly. And then they try to mend this with other noise in their lives. So I really wish that we are able to share this knowledge. I was very lucky that when I was injured, actually, I could get a lot of time to start reading, and I was interested in it. And today, whatever I am is a lot of help from the knowledge of our culture and Vedanta, or Gita, or yoga. But I think it's something which is very, very important, and it's great work which you do. But uh, is there a practical way of pushing this through into the education system? Or are we doing it enough? Or
I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I could. I wish I could tell them, like tell who's listening to us. That we had a great culture. We were the land of milk and honey. We were so rich that everybody came here to loot our wealth. When will we get it? Even after looting our wealth at the time of independence, we were 1 rupee to a dollar. When will we get it? It was our culture that kept us all happy, that kept us all tolerant, that kept us all productive, that kept us, you know, everything we had. So why don't we get it? I don't know. I wish I knew how to answer that question. I have no idea. It would be a dream to get everybody to know what this subject is about and how useful it can be, not only to Indians, but the whole world. This is our contribution to world thought. So, in fact, people from the world have appreciated it and through the centuries, not now, through the centuries, whether it's Max Muller, whether it is Thoreau and Emerson. I mean, go back. Like Goethe, when he read Shakuntala, he apparently put it on his head and started dancing. He was so thrilled. So, like how? I don't know. Tell me, please, if anybody knows, tell me.
one of the other things which I just feel overall is, as a culture, life is all about suffering. Is certain words which we've also come across through the other religions which came up, and also it's all about sin and punishment and stuff. So it's kind of left a generation also not knowing what uh, true happiness and enjoyment is. And accumulation of wealth or prosperity, or giving, these were all things which we've kind of seemed to have lost. And a lot of confusion about either there is an exponential side where there is exploitation and um, splashing of wealth, or on the other side there is depression and poverty. So what should be our nature? Because when we see poverty around, um, do we start feeling unhappy about it, or there is happiness in either ways? Because when you detach thought, or when you detach um, your mind to things. There's also an innate happiness just by yourself, by your own thoughts, by your just by yourself, you're happy. But then sometimes when you see unhappiness around, then you're like, my God, this is actually something which has happened to me as well. In the sense, the last 8 months has been a great time for me. But when I see outside world and I see there's so much of sadness and people losing jobs and people dying, you just feel guilty about being happy inside. And how do we look at this aspect of life?
Okay, so yes, this is a very interesting aspect of life about enjoyment and sorrow. Is life suffering? Is it meant to be suffering? There's a lot of confusion about wealth because we don't even study. I mean, these are things we use, right? We use money and we can't function without money. So we should have a subject that teaches us about money, but we don't even have that. We may have something on economics, but we don't get it about money. What is money and what is its role in our life? So Shiv Purana actually gives a very nice thing about money. It says money is meant for, but before you even go there, Swami Parthasarathi has defined what is money beautifully. He says, what is money? It is it is something that you exchange for sense objects. It is a commodity that you transact sense objects in, meaning that money is something with which you buy a bed, you can't buy sleep, with which you buy food, you can't buy appetite, you can buy books, can't buy knowledge, you can buy people, you can't buy love. So money is a commodity which we transact for sense objects, for objects of the world. Okay, so this is what money is. Now, when we give money an extraordinary importance, we give it a black market value, that's when the trouble starts. I tell you how black market value. People think, what do I want to do in life? What do I want to do? I want to make lots of money. This is called black market value because you have given it, heck, hello, it is important, it is useful, it's useful for a particular purpose. But it's not everything in life. So when you start thinking it is everything, why are you being a doctor so that I can get a 5-bedroom house? This is when you start giving it black market value. Another way we give it black market value, we look upon rich people and say, he's a rich person. Black market value, because the only thing you're seeing in the person is that he has money. Another thing, they think charity is only giving money. So they think charity is only in terms of helping the poor. Because I don't understand. Is there any other form of charity? So all this is giving money black market value, making it a single pointed focus of many things. Why am I choosing a career? Because I'll make money in it. Everything is money oriented. So first recognition is what is money? It is meant to transact in sense objects. That is its value. That's the value. Now this is not a low value or something. That is its value. If anyone says no money, there's nothing in money, then I suggest you go to a municipal hospital when you fall ill next time, then you will understand what money is or it isn't. So let's not look down on it. We need it. We can't transact without it. But now once you understand what it is, you understand the next step, what do you do with the money? So Shiv Purana gives 3 uses. You think of anything better. Number 1, use it for dharma, for good purposes. Number 2, you use it for flourishing. Flourishing means if you're a businessman, you put it back into your business. If whatever you're doing, you invest your money, you save your money, you invest your money. It's for flourishing, it's for future growth. And the third is for enjoyment. If you can't do the first, it's only a selfish person. My money is mine and I don't want to help anybody or do anything. If you can't do the second, which is you can't use it to flourish, that means save, invest, all these things, that means you're just a spendthrift. You're going to fritter it all away. And if you can't do the third, that means use it for enjoying. That means you're only a miser, right? You collect, collect, collect. and leave it when you're dead to somebody to become a spendthrift. So these are the three uses of money, and if we understand the picture of money, it is meant for our use. It is meant for our enjoyment. What are the malls there for? For our enjoyment. What are we using them for? For our destruction. So money per se is neither good nor bad, but how we use it is the whole thing. So if you start, when people start saying all these bad things about money, they don't actually mean that the money is bad. Like Shankara says, artham anartham. Wealth is calamitous. But what he means is, if you don't know how to contact it, it's just like saying electricity is calamitous. Because if you don't know how to contact it, that's why they put skull and bones. You don't know how to contact this and you contact it, that's your picture there. So there's no harm in the enjoyments. The enjoyments are meant for us. Why would we not enjoy our life? But it has to all be ruled by our own intellect to understand how much, when, how much is okay, how much is too much, how much is too little, how much is appropriate now, and what is not appropriate now. It's my exam tomorrow. It's not appropriate for me to be watching a movie. I have a badminton tournament tomorrow. It's not appropriate for me to be having a glass of wine. It's not. So I must be able to regulate my own enjoyments and my own understanding and use of money. So nothing wrong with enjoyment. There's no sin in it. There's no bad thing in it. But we must know how to do it. And for that, you need a sharp intellect. You may be able to think for yourself how much you're doing. And as far as feeling guilty about other people suffering when we are not, well, what can we do? We can help them to the best of our ability, but there will always be more people suffering than what we can help. And that gap we can only fill with compassion. What else can you do? I feel very bad, but there's nothing I can do about it. Imagine how many people all over the world are suffering because some basic facts are not known to them. All these problems will disappear if those facts were known. They're suffering, but how do you tell them? You can't do it all, right? Beyond the point. So you do what you can. Just do the best we can. What else can we do?
There's one question about growth, because many of us, uh, if you ask a politician what growth means for him, and he would say it is his dharma to be the prime minister. And that role leads them to a continuous trampling over people and moving ahead of doing everything possible. Because in the mindset, to be a politician would mean to ascend to the highest. And that is also something which kingdoms and aristocracy has done, where the ultimate objective, where like if you're a sports person, then your ultimate objective is to become a world champion. In a similar sense, somebody is thinking of that. And also, somebody who owns a restaurant thinks that he should be like the McDonald's or the KFCs of the world, opening tons of them. And growth and growth and growth, which ends up becoming unmanageable growth. And trees become huge and forests become too huge and are burned by forest fires. And so, my question is, do we in life look at human potential as an unlimited growth factor, or do we look at as a manageable growth factor where there is a semblance of calm and manageable growth with certain prosperity, but this is enough. This is like there's a certain sense of satisfaction and calmness in the entire thing, or there is something like the growth which um, the Western kings or would have thought would I will conquer more and more and more. Would that be something which is so? Your thoughts on growth is something which I thought I could ask.
A great question. Yes, it's something we all need to think about as human beings. So here's how Vedanta would look at it. If we don't want growth, we are stagnating. That's a very tamasic way of doing things. Oh, I'm just very happy where I am. Oh, kyun ye sab kare? Okay, I have enough money, or it's okay even if I don't have. I mean, all that's very tamasic attitude to not want growth. The growth that you referred to, where the politician wants to become the prime minister, the badminton player wants to be the world number one, the king wants to have more territories, the businessman wants his turnover, even if he wrecks the environment and everybody dies, he doesn't care as long as turnover grows. This is all rajas. It is that unimpeded growth which you are referring to, which you are seeing is somehow not all fitting. So therefore, we have a third state, neither tamasic where you don't want growth, nor rajasic where your growth uh, is like untrammeled growth. It's just going on. But sattvic growth. Now, is there any limit to sattvic growth? No. The human potential is infinite, and we have to go on till we get it. Then, what is the difference between this rajasic way and the sattvic way? In the rajasic way, I want to be prime minister. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to become prime minister. In the sattvic way, I want the welfare of my nation. And now the whole thing will change. Okay, as a badminton player, I want to put India's name on the badminton map. Okay, so does that make me world champion? Yes, if I want to put India's name, I will work to become the world champion. But it's not because I want to be world champion. It's because India must become the world champion. As a businessman, why do we say bad things about politicians and businessmen and all these people? Because we are only seeing the Rajas part of it. But even in that world, a JRD Tata will be respected. Why is he respected? Because he was doing nation building. Without business, you can't do nation building. How will you? If you were a broken country, it was necessary to do business. It was necessary to give us an airline. It was necessary to give us steel. And he did whatever it took for nation building. He became the richest. His group became the richest eventually. So growth is a wonderful thing. We all have to stretch our arms out for it. But when we bring ourselves into the picture, I must be the best author. I must be the best player. I must be the prime minister. This is where the problem arises. My country must grow. The knowledge must grow. So what is the outcome of that? Is naturally this person who thinks like that will become prime minister. The person who thinks for nation building will have the best business. He'll probably reach number one. His entire potential will come out to him. So he will grow, but very peacefully. His productivity will not cause him stress. And that's the way we reach the highest heights. That's how it was done in the past. That is Ram Rajya.
I have a small announcement for the viewers who may be interested in joining us for our Bhagavad Gita classes. We have from Thursday to Sunday, Dr. Janki Santoke will be taking classes. You can listen, interact, ask your questions, and clear your doubts. So please join us. We have enough media presence. You can inquire anywhere. Also, another thing I would want to talk about is Jankiji has written this book which can be immensely beneficial to all of us. It's called How Do You Know What You Know? It goes into fundamentals to explain why our life is the way it is. And not only that, not just explaining why it is the way it is, it also gives us a means to change our thoughts and life. And it draws inspiration from secular forces like Vedanta, Indian mythology, Western psychology, logic, and literature. I think this book, one has to get a copy of it. We have a lot of media presence. Please ask questions anywhere and join us for our Bhagavad Gita classes. Thursday to Sunday. Any day you can pick and choose. Yeah, I leave it to you both to continue, Janki.
There were some questions from the audience. Are you going to be taking those?
I'm still waiting for the questions. Meanwhile, I think Gopi can just ask his questions.
Okay, diet is something which so much has been spoken about. Of course, there is sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, and that definition, which I think most of us would know. Any other references on what the warriors were eating at the time of the war, or any other references regarding food beyond just the principles which have of the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic, which have been there?
I don't know anything about what the warriors were eating, but I can tell you what the Gita says. The Gita talks about the three types of tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic food. And these are very highly misunderstood verses from the Gita, because now people, firstly, there's no mention of any specific food, it's just given in general. And people have said this is sattvic, or this is rajasic, or this is tamasic. And verse said that if you eat this food, you will become tamasic or rajasic or sattvic. The Gita doesn't say that. It is not by food that we become tamasic or rajasic or sattvic. Tamas is a state of ignorance, inertia, laziness. Rajas is a state of activity, desire ridden, passion ridden, competitive. All this is rajas. And sattva is the state of equanimity, poise, and efficiency. The state of being able to act with complete peace. So now food doesn't do this to us. Food, the sattvic people will choose sattvic food. The rajasic people will choose rajasic food. The tamasic people will choose tamasic food. You can use the kind of food you're using as a method of self-analysis. What's the food you like? If you like stale food, putrid food, or smelly food, then that's indicative of tamas. If you like food which is strong taste, that's indicative of rajas. If you like food which is healthy, which is oleaginous, means not French fries, but like nuts and things like that, oil food, then all that is considered to be sattvic. So you can kind of assess yourself, but you cannot change your diet to change the tamas, rajas, sattva in yourself. To the extent you have it, you'll have natural attraction towards that food. Naturally go towards sour and chili and strong taste if you're rajasic, and towards stale food, chuta food, that kind of food, rotten food also, very, very old food if you are tamasic, and sattvic will have. So Gita gives it like that as a indication of what we are. The food forms a conducive environment for those qualities in us which are already in us to come out. That's about it. What is already there will come out. Like you eat like a very heavy meal, then the sleepiness which is in us will come out like that. You can't put sleepiness into you by doing that. So that's what the Gita has to say about it.
Yeah. So one question which I always thought, and maybe it's a little funny one to say, because sometimes you don't know whether these things are said in a manner which is a poetic description of the way things are. But Krishna's son Samba, and also the Yadava clan, and the Gopikas who trusted him, at the time of Krishna's death, and the Pandavas um, felt helpless, and the Arjuna's Gandiva wouldn't work in front of the dacoits and the robbers, and and they finally become helpless and come to Krishna at his deathbed. And Krishna says, "You go to Lhasa," and then they go there, and then he says, "Your time on this planet, on the earth, is finished, and it's time for you to go towards the heavens or Himalayas, and that's the description of the story which I've heard. So in this whole, so where does Krishna's role as a savior come um, in protecting his own son, his family, his clan, his gopikas who were so dear, who thought that he was their rakshak, and the Pandavas trusted him, and how if with all so much of help and having such close proximity to Krishna, why was there still at the time of um, the end of their lives, there was still so many unanswered questions for them?
Very interesting. Yes, that's how it is. Because human development is not something that can be delegated. We cannot leave it to God, to the gurus, or to anybody. You get it for yourself or you don't get it. The buck stops here, nowhere else. There is no savior. There is no one coming to help us. The buck stops here. Whatever I make out of my life, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever I do out of it, I create it. We don't have the concept of the savior. In fact, in the Bhakti Yoga movement, in Bhakti, they talk about God as the savior. But the song that they sing, it's beautiful how they sing it. They say, "Ram se bada Ram ka naam." I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah.
bhajan. Ram se bada Ram ka naam, because it is not God who will save you. What will save you is Ram Naam, which means your dedication to the higher. If you are dedicated to the higher, it will protect you. God is not coming to protect you. If He was to protect us, why would He give us our own intellects? Why would He give us our own heads? He's given our heads to us so that we use it and make the most of our life. Now, some people say, oh, that may be your opinion. No, let me tell you, this is what the Gita says. Because after Arjuna is given the entire message of the Gita, Krishna says to him, I have told you all that I want to say. And then his famous words, Yatha ichhasi tatha kuru. As you desire, so do. Because your coach, your teacher, or anybody outside can advise you. But it's up to you now. Are you going to do it or not going to do it? You can go to the gym and the gym instructor can tell you 50 things. You won't get muscles out of that. Are you picking up those weights? That's the question. Coach Gopichand can tell me how to play badminton, but am I going to the court and picking up the racket? That's the question. So it is the understanding that each person is his own master, his own savior, and his own destroyer. So that's why Krishna says in the Gita, Uddhare dat atmanat atmanam. Raise yourself, for you alone are your friend and you alone are your enemy. You can take advice, you can take help, but you got to do it yourself.
Can I interrupt? Sorry to interrupt, Janki. We have now lots of questions on YouTube, but we have very little time. Yet I think we can take a couple of questions. Devi asks, we may have gained the skills to achieve a goal. However, how we maintain consistency and focus towards the goal. So she wants to know how to maintain the consistency. And there's another question by Aditi. I will
Let's
ask.
take, one beautiful one. Yeah. So how Devi, right? So Devi, how we maintain consistency or focus is by developing the intellect. What in us distracts us is our mind. Our mind goes helter skelter. When you're playing a game or you're writing your exam or you've gone to an interview for a job, the mind will go to, will I get the job? Will I win the badminton tournament? Will I get good marks in my exam? The mind tends to take you away from the current action. So when the intellect is strong, you bring it back to the action. You bring it back to the action because at the end of the day, what's working, the cause and effect relationship is action, cause, winning, losing, scoring, getting, losing, effect. All these are the effects. thinking of them doesn't give it action. So it is our intellect that is able to keep us fully available to the present moment. When you do this one after the other, it's called consistency. For the any one moment you do it, it's called concentration. So the intellect gives you both concentration and as well as consistency. How do you develop a strong intellect? To be able to hold the mind in position, study Vedanta. Come join our classes. I don't know if um, Coach would like to say something on this.
Yeah, there's another.
I think for us in sport, I think the words which we use is the body knows what to do. Don't let your mind come in between. So I think when you practice it enough, I think all of us uh, would know that a state where you don't think is the best state, where you're not doing things, but the flow happens, and it happens almost involuntarily, and that comes by repeated practice and thinking or feeling about it. I think that would be important. So skills are there, but at the time of execution, I think you just have to trust that the body knows, and all thoughts of self doubt has to be put to the side, and that would be important.
Janki ji, there's another question from Sai. He says, how do we deal with work environment to manage perceptions as a leader while following dharma?
Uh, Firstly, as a leader, we need to have a higher vision in life. That's our first thing. There's no leadership without a vision. So leadership is actually the byproduct of a vision. When you have a vision in life, people will follow you. You don't have to do anything. But what you need to do subsequently is make sure that you are clear to your followers or to your colleagues what exactly you're trying to achieve. That should be that clarity you have to give them. When you're dedicated to a cause, you'll find people following you. When you're saying, I'm dedicated to this cause so much that whether anybody follows me or not, I'm doing it. What Indira Gandhi used to say, na? Daksho tore na tobe ekla chalo re. Walk alone. It's okay. Don't bother. People will be there. But when the people are there, then the next step is to how do you handle it? Be very clear about what most people assume that everybody knows whatever's in their mind. So Swamiji always said the onus of communication is on the communicator. If somebody doesn't understand us, it's because we have not communicated them to them. So onus is on the communicator. You want somebody to know something, you make sure that they know it. So how do you handle perception? Because you've told them. And you've told them enough till you have made sure they know it. That's it.
There's another Janki ji. She says aim, ambition, aspiration cause agitation. How can we pursue excellence without getting agitated?
Aim, ambition, aspiration don't cause any agitation. Two things causes agitation is when the aim or the aspiration is all self-centered, like I will be champion, I will be prime minister, I will be having this turnover, I should be the most famous person, I will be the star. So the selfish intent is what causes agitation. It is the nature of the mind that the moment the selfishness comes, there is agitation. This is a law. The greater the selfishness in an individual, the greater the mental agitation. You'll see that, right? Every unselfish person, you look at their face, you know they're peaceful. So it's just a law. The greater the selfishness, the greater the mental agitation. One form of selfishness is to think, what am I getting? What am I getting? What am I getting? It's called the fruit. So the other reason why we get agitated with a goal is we are obsessing about the goal. It's no longer a goal, it's become an obsession. That means the mind is going to that thing without any supervision of the intellect. So how you keep yourself calm in action is use your goal as a direction for action. If we don't have a goal, we won't know which action to do. If I don't have a goal, how do I know what to do? If I get out of my building and I'm like, do I turn right or left? I don't know until I know where I'm headed, right? So the goal is merely a direction for action. It is what helps us choose the action. But having chosen the action, you forget about the goal and focus on the action. Okay, so if you miss on either of these two things, the goal is selfish, or you're unnecessarily remembering the goal during action. Unless we do one of these two things, no goal can cause agitation.
Okay, one last question. How can a 15-year-old pursuing sport have right attitude towards achievement in sport?
15 or 50?
15-year-old,
15
15-year-old.
years. It's interesting. How can he have? If he's dedicated to his goal, he will have to have. He has no option but to have the right attitude. Because if you don't have the right attitude, you ain't getting it, buddy. So you can't get it. You can't get your attitude straight. You don't get your trophy. It's that simple. So if you want your trophy, you better get your attitude straight. So how can he get it? By being dedicated to his game. It's not optional. Everybody will reach only as high as his attitude is. You can't outgrow your attitude. You reach only as high as your attitude is. You can have the best talent. Your attitude is bad. You pull yourself down. So if you get that, you will straighten out your attitude.
I'm sure Gopi has seen 15-year-olds come and go if they didn't have the right attitude.
Yes, I completely agree with Janki ji. I think uh, life is tough, definitely, but sport actually tells you very quickly if your attitude is bad. So I think
Mhm.
it just puts you in a under the microscope very quickly. So I think if your attitude is bad, you will pay for it very quickly. And there are so many ups and downs in sport, and so many failures and successes in a very short period of time that it just helps people evolve much more. So for me, I think playing sport, our greatest value is that life lessons which we learn out of it. So a 15-year-old, I think, give it your best shot repeatedly. And I think over and over again, and failure should not be an option which you should take as a 15-year-old. I think you should go back, learn from your mistakes, and move on and try again. And you will fail again. And then for me, the biggest um, thing in my mind which comes is a kid trying to walk, and he will just fall down over and over again, but he will just not give up till he walks. That's how our attitude should be. And whether it's young or old, I think that's the attitude we should always look for.
Thank you so much, Gopi, for that last piece of advice for all the youngsters. Thank you for sharing your journey. Very inspiring. Janki ji, thank you so much for all the wisdom. For viewers who want to know more about Vedanta, please join our classes Thursday to Sunday. You can not only listen, but Janki ji will answer all your unanswered questions. Thank you so much. Hari Om.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Please note down this number. You can WhatsApp to this number for the details of the classes.